Welcome to King Said So, Africa's one land, one language, one currency, one army on King Said So. Africans can unite. Your pan-Africanist podcast. Enjoy. Peace in pan-Africanism to all my African brothers and sisters from all around the world. Welcome back to King Said So. I'm your host, Kagiso Hlongwane Zinjiva. King 053, Mr. Easy Imali Eneng. And we're back at it again. And this time around, I have to say, this might just be the best interview I have watched in 2024. This might just be the best interview I have watched in 2024 for many reasons. I've watched this interview of Kim Hiller at the EFF podcast studio, and I was saying, why don't people get it when I say it? Why don't people get it when we say it? Why does it have to come from a white Jewish woman for you guys to understand? She's trying to wake you guys up. She's trying to tell you your worth as an African child. She's trying to show you who your enemies are, but we are not listening. This might just be the best interview. I cut it down into, how many clips did I cut it down? I think I cut it down into 7 clips. So this might be a long video, but I assure you, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to thoroughly enjoy it. Let's listen to what she says about being a white settler in South Africa, and what she views as the apartheid sin in South Africa.
Perhaps to introduce myself, I always describe myself as a white settler, as a true foreigner in the country.
Yeah.
And perhaps we can look at that later, this dreadful concept and practice of African brothers and sisters turning on African brothers and sisters. So I'm being interviewed today still as a settler, still as a privileged white person in what we call a democratic South Africa, but which is certainly not democratic. So perhaps when I look at what my forefathers did to this country, I feel it's incumbent upon me to try and rectify some of the brutal acts of great inhumanity conducted by people like me against Black South Africans. So I think it's a matter of justice, of standing for justice here. I've also been quite vocal on the Palestine issue. So I think to be a human being is to speak about justice wherever you see it. Sadly, what we see is that white South Africans don't seem to have any moral compass. So people like myself, we've never offered reparations. We've never knelt down before Black people and said, forgive me for the great atrocities I've committed, not only under apartheid, but under colonialism. So I think why I've written No White Lies and about the lack of white accountability is because I'm trying to appeal to white people to shift their national consciousness from one of privilege and white supremacy and entitlement and arrogance, and I can go on a lot, to actually recognize the sins that you've committed in this country, whether it's through you or the actions of those that came before you.
The mistake that we have made in Africa, especially here in South Africa, is that the Dutch settlers and the British settlers in our land, we have now given them the title of Africa. We call our African brothers and sisters foreigners, and we call our settlers and our colonizers Africans. It does not make sense. How we came to this point, how the apartheid system has been working for so long that even post 1994, we refuse to see our African brothers and sisters as our equals, but we see the white settlers and colonizers as the almighties. She says, look at what my forefathers has done to the people of this land. I don't know how many times must I tell you that, guys, everything was stolen and is still being stolen till today from you, African child. the problem I have with you, African child, is that you are not angered by it. Nobody is angered that they don't have land. You don't see a great revolution coming forth because we want to get our land back via votes and via parliament and via government and all of those stuff. Wasting time. I like also what she said when we spoke about the 300 parties that have registered in South Africa, 300 plus, or is it 280 plus political parties that will be contesting the elections this year. She said, to her, it's a sign of confusion. It's not a sign of freedom of association. It's a sign of confusion. So it is heartbreaking to see that it is a white person who says, listen, I wish African people can get their justice. It's a matter of justice. We don't want our justice back. Nobody's fighting for African justice, the reparations that we are supposed to get. The way they are fighting for Palestine, I wish they could fight for Africans the same way. I'm speaking about the South African government. And she says, white people have got no moral compass. They never said sorry. And they will never say sorry. Ever. Ever. And we should stop seeking the sorry from white people. We should stop seeking the apology. I always advocate to say we should stop seeking equality and start seeking revenge. Meaning, do what they did to you unto them. How they treated you, treat them. Many African brothers and sisters don't want to hear this because to them it's like, man, let's live together, let's coexist with our enemies. So I must coexist with someone that has stolen my house, that is still in my house. I'm outside. Someone that has stolen my farm. I must coexist in peace with them while they enjoy the fruits of the land, while I am considered hungry and poor. No, it cannot be. It cannot be. She said the white people do not want to recognize the sin that they committed during the colonization of African countries. They don't recognize the wrong. They're like, no, you are weak, we took over, so what? They don't understand what is going on. Guys, you're going to enjoy this. Let's hear what she says about land. Wow, man. Kim Hiller really did a great job in this interview. I wish the interviewer could have done a better job in asking questions. But anyways, that's a topic for another day.
Are you being treated in the white community for your political stance that you have taken?
Well,
as a white person,
yeah, I think I've always been a black sheep in the community. And although I've said to letters, I've been on television, and I've said, dear white fellow South Africans, it's time for us to give back the land. It's time for us to repent for the things that we've done, because only when we do that can we speak about a stronger together nation, can we speak about reconciliation. And generally what I get is a lot of hate mail, which is disappointing. So I've come to the conclusion, sadly so, that white people are not going to participate in the emancipation of South Africa. In fact, they'll do everything to make sure that this land is never transformed. They are holding on to stolen goods. And so, yes, possibly I'm seen as the enemy of whiteness. I'm seen as a race traitor. But I actually wear that label very proudly, because if being a race traitor means trying to bring an equitable and just society, then you can label me that any day.
Now, when it comes to the land, my people, when the correct government is in power, and I've heard Julius Malema say this, he says, we take all the land, from black, from white, from colors, from anyone in Africa, and we make it state-owned. And then the state distributes the land according to the need of the people. Meaning, what do we mean by that? We mean 7% of the population in South Africa cannot own 80% of the land. You understand what I'm saying? So the government will say, no, you are 7%, you cannot own all of this land, while the 90% of the population is suffering with land drought. That is what we want from our land. Dignity is in the land. You need to be born, you must be born on a piece of land. You need to grow up, you must grow up on a piece of land. You need to go to Paseta, the Pan-African School of Economics, Technology and Agriculture. It must be on a land. You need to go to a varsity, it must be on a land. You need to be buried, it must be on the land. You need the land throughout the entirety of your life. African people don't care about land. They are happy with these small cubicles that they are living in. Very happy. And the government has made us complicit to say, it's fine, man, as long as you are working, as long as you're doing good, man, you have a double-story house. You could have more. And with more, you could do more. Africans don't want to understand this. We have now embarked on a journey of building a school. That school, I've got KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, Mpumalanga, Limpopo. Those four provinces, I've got emails from people that said, King, here's the land, come and build the school here. You understand? You check the demographics of the land. You check the demographic of the land, where it is associated, how far it is from basic medical care, basic, everything. It's far. So we're going to go on a journey, I think from maybe April, or maybe even after the elections, where we go view the land and show it to you guys that, guys, here's the land that we need to build the school, and here's the architectural drawings and work, and this is how much it's going to cost us. Some of you say, King, how can we contribute? Be patient. Today I was at the Department of Education speaking about the registration of the school, busy with that process. So everything, I'll be posting the papers here. Everything will be done by the end of this month. We should have our school registered. Without if complications are not in our way, but we're expecting stumbling blocks because we are Africans. We are expecting stumbling blocks from our own people. From our own people. The Department of Education, they look at you like, you want to register a school? Who's sponsoring you? Huh? Who's the head of that school? It's me. You're speaking to me. There's no one else. You speak to me. They can't believe. You can see in their facial expression that they can't believe that this young man is coming here to register a school. They can't believe it. But we're going to show them what we can do. Let's go back to Kim and listen to what she says about the Rainbow Nation.
Given the state of racism, or the rate at which it happens in South Africa, would you say South Africa is a rainbow nation?
If South Africa is a rainbow nation, then the rainbow nation must be a very big storm, actually. Mm-hmm. And I think we did a great disservice to this country and to mm-hmm. Black South Africans, and in a way, white South Africans in 1994. Mm-hmm. And in my book, I write about how reconciliation is actually a white man's medicine. Mm-hmm. It has done a lot of harm to Black people. Mm-hmm. It may not have been intended to cause harm, mm-hmm. but it has done no healing. So what we saw in 1994 was Black liberation put on the back burner. In fact, in my book, I speak about a stillborn democracy. And I think 1994 took emphasis off the Black struggle in what I call this absolute nonsense of non-racialism. Mm-hmm. I'm not an advocate of non-racialism. Mm-hmm. I describe myself quite proudly as a former charterist, where this coming together of white people and Black people mm-hmm. is seen as such a wonderful thing. I don't think it is a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. We cannot speak about reconciliation mm-hmm. until we speak about being equal partners. Mm-hmm. And as it stands now, I'm a white privileged person, and Black people are still children of a lesser guard mm-hmm. in what we would call a democratic government mm-hmm. and under what we would we once thought was a black government. But the ANC is day by day showing itself as a government that stands for the interests of whiteness.
There is no nonsense on African soil more than the nonsense that South Africa sings that and pride itself that they are a rainbow nation. Pure nonsense. Pure rainbow nation on paper, but not in practicality. No black South African is equal to a white South African, even if they are richer than the white South African. Rationalism does not exist. Why is it that white people don't see that? Why is it that they want to hide themselves in Oranje? Why is it that they want to colonize Western Cape again? They don't see that thing of sharing anything with you guys. We have to look after us. Nobody's going to do it for us. The Italians are looking after the Italians. The Jewish are looking after the Jewish. The whites, Dutch are looking after the Dutch. Who's looking after the Africans? You understand what I'm saying? So I'm very disappointed with this thing because the ANC itself is protecting this white supremacy thing that is happening in our country. I'm going to speak more about that later on, but the ANC is making white people feel more powerful to the point where white people said, if we knew that democracy would have made us so rich and would have given us so much freedom, we would have given over the country in the 80s and not in 1994. That's how much they are enjoying the fruits of democracy. It is their democracy and not the democracy of African people. You understand what I'm saying? Let's also speak about white privilege on that tone, and white privilege and how white people perceive themselves and perceive us. Listen to this.
And what's so remarkable is that the ANC government seem to have adopted that. I almost feel it's like the national anthem of the ANC, not to disturb white supremacy. So it's not even about, white people will always act in their own interests. History tells us that no white person anywhere in the world, no government, has ever handed over power willingly. So we have white people who are holding on to whatever they have. But sadly, we have a black government who's allowing them so. We also have an older black generation that I think has almost subscribes to the notion that white people are superior. And that's where the tragedy lies, not in white people thinking they're better. We know that's a false dogma, but it breaks my heart when we see black people buying into that notion. And we see that in everyday life where black people will go into a white supermarket. Black people will consume white media, although the images of black people in mainstream media are shocking. Black people are criminalized. They're seen as poor family representatives. They've always been put down, not only in South Africa. You see that in the US.
Yes.
But yet, black people will still go to white media first. They'll still go to white banks. And I think that's a very sad symptom of the power of white supremacy. And that's what I write about, is that black people have fallen under the
White privilege and white supremacy is a real thing. It's a real thing. I was speaking to one of my white brothers, friend, and I was telling him about the school. He's a rebellious one, that one, who is also pro-African, and he understands that the land was stolen, and him and his family must give back the land. So I'm telling him my experience of going to the Department of Education and asking for, asking the process of registering the school. He says, "Man, you should have went with me." And I knew that he knew why he was saying that. We would have been treated differently if I went with my white brother. He's even taller than me. He's a big boy. He's a big boy. So white privilege is there. When you come with a white person, black people automatically shiver and start doing things faster. Another interesting thing about white people is that there is no place on earth where you can go. You hear what I'm saying? No place on earth where you can go and you find white people living in harmony with other races. No place on earth. There isn't one country, one scenario where you can say, but look at that country, white people are living in peace and harmony with other people. There isn't a scenario where white people handed over power peacefully. It was always through bloodshed. So that should tell you what type of people we are dealing with here. It should tell you what type of people we are dealing with. But on the back hand, you find us Africans going and supporting white businesses with all our hearts. We don't empower black businesses to be on the same level. And I've always said, people complain that, the Pakistanis and Nigerians and Indians, they are killing the township economy. I said the white companies have infiltrated infiltrated the township economy. You find ShopRite in the township. You find Checkers in the township. Pick and Pay in the Spa and OK. You find them in the township, and you find black people supporting those businesses. Even when the EFF showed us that the spas, they sell expired goods and whatever, they never got any backlash like the Pakistanis and Indian people got. You understand what I'm saying? We are brainwashed to I don't know what level to believe that white people are superior to us. You people, we must stop this thing. Let's hear what she said about Orania, about the DA, and about the racism in our country.
Party that obviously peddles or fuels racism in some parts. Now we understand that in the Western Cape, the DA wants the provincial powers bill. What do you make of the DA's position on that?
Well, I mean, the DA, I've written before about the oxygen of the DA is white supremacy and white privilege. I mean, you can't take out that from. It's like part of their DNA. Actually, they can't breathe without racism. So, once again, they just want to extract more and more. You would think that at this stage there would be some level of desire for equity and sharing of assets, but they just want more and more. And the notion of this Cape independence.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just absolutely. That is a explicit example of whiteness unable to confront itself and say, let us share South Africa. We should be grateful as white people that we're still allowed on this land. But what do? We just want to take not only the land, but an entire province. And it's quite interesting just to look at this in an international context, where we see the people of Palestine in the same situation, that we have apartheid Israel wanting more and more land. So both struggles, in a way, are colonial struggles.
I wonder what is wrong with our African brothers and sisters who are in the DA. I wonder what is wrong with our African brothers and sisters who are in the DA. A full black person supporting the DA. I'm talking about a mere poor person who lives in Cape Town, in the poor townships, and supporting the DA. I understand those who are in structures and who are in parliament, they are whitewashing them with the color washing them so that the DA may look like it's a multiracial party. It's not. It's not, ladies and gentlemen. The DA is the most evil party here in South Africa. And they are showing their true colors, trying to colonize Western Cape again. Where the DA governs, they govern correctly. Where? Make an example. Make an example. Take Cape Town out of the equation, of which Cape Town is also not a good example. But Western Cape is a country. Cape Town is a city in Western Cape. Tell us about the rest of Western Cape. Show us the beautiful work that you have done in the Western Cape, the DA. You have taken over Tshwane, you did nothing. You have taken over Johannesburg, you did nothing. You have taken over Nelson Mandela, you did nothing. You are failing. You have taken over KwaZulu-Natal, you are doing nothing. There is no place where you can tell me the DA is governing great for black people. Never. Show me those benefits. And again, it's only here in South Africa where a colonizer who never left our land can say they are creating a city like Orania. I don't stay far from Orania. Here, Kimberley is a few kilometers to Orania, maybe 200 and something kilometers. Well, in Northern Cape, that's not far. It might be far for some of you in your provinces, but for us in Northern Cape, 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers is nothing. We drive 1,600 kilometers in the same province. Northern Cape can be a country on its own if it wanted to, just like Namibia. Northern Cape is that big. I've went to Orania. Well, let me not say I've passed at Orania so many times. When you pass at the main road, that is a South African road, their petrol, their filling station, their garage is on the main road. I stopped there and they refused to pour petrol for me. I worked that side, the DR, I went that side, I traveled that side. So I know the racism of Orania. They might smile when Gaten Mackenzie and Bob Penwell are there smiling and acting as if I don't even trust those people's food. I would not sit down and eat at Orania as a black man. I don't feel safe to do that. Here, the chef will have to cook that food in front of me. I can't eat at Orania. Not me. Not me. So now, just so that this video must not be too long, I'm going to make 3 videos out of this. Let's hear what she says about education, because you know how education is dear to my heart in this channel.
We have crumbs for the black person, where the large share of the pie store is with the white colonial settler, like myself. So racism is in the system itself. And so I'm less concerned about the on the daily racism. I mean, that obviously it's a dreadful thing, but until we tackle this systemically and eradicate racist structures of the economy, of cultural expression, of the narrative itself that we speak every day, nothing's going to change. So, I mean, where I see a lot of racism that worries me is in the schools, for instance.
Oh, like Brickenfell.
Yeah, but even more so than that, I think it's what children are taught. And I had the great pleasure many years ago, I was working at the Sowetan, and I worked with Don Matero, who was one of the greatest poets in this country. And his work is beautiful. To me, he is a true black consciousness leader. And when his work was suggested for grade 1 learners, the Department of Education said, no, we can't feature his work because it could upset white children. So these are real issues that we are accommodating the former settler and making him feel so comfortable that by doing so, the black South African, the African, is absolutely put on the peripheries of an economy, of a cultural landscape that is his and hers, but which is completely contaminated by whiteness. So that, that to me is a real expression of racism, that in the schools, black thought, black expression cannot be fully articulated. I think that's really painful. Schools, black thought, black expression cannot be fully articulated. I think that's really painful.
Do you believe there are schools that preserve the legacy of apartheid in the form of racism?
I think that what happened was that, yes, but the schools are part of a larger system. So I think there is a problem. I mean, even in a lot of the modern Model C type schools, you know, we see African languages still pushed to the side as an option. And that's a real problem. I did a seminar at one of the universities a few years ago, and I said the two things that I think a black government should do would be to, first of all, take land from white people because it was stolen and white people are not the rightful owners. And the second thing I would do is to stop speaking the language of the settler, English and Afrikaans, and put at the center African languages. Because imagine if we're having this conversation not in English. Imagine if we were having critical discussions in our country and our president spoke in an African language. White people would immediately lose power. At the same time, there would be an expression of being African. So, I mean, our society is very damaged. The Rainbow Nation has just caused more discomfort, not less discomfort. And I always think, like, I get so shocked when I see people singing DSTEM. I mean, black professors standing up and saying, you know, singing this apartheid melody. I mean, that's so painful that we're having that. I wonder what young people think. So it's more than just even a structural recalibration of society. It's a cultural recalibration. It's to say this is our voice. The white voice must be shut down or quietened. What are the values of an indigenous black society? And let's get back to that. That's what will end racism.
Because when you talk about DSTEM, the EFF, as you may have noticed, during its rallies and events, it sings pro-African, pan-Africanist, anthem, national anthem, which doesn't include DSTEM. Now,
let me take it backwards and say, I know if you've watched my live. When I go live on Instagram, on YouTube, you know how much I hate English. I don't understand why African countries did not do away with our colonizers' languages. That is the biggest sign of weakness that we can show ever. Speaking the colonizers' language is a sign of weakness. Is a sign of not believing in our own languages. You tell Africans, let's unite behind Kiswahili. Black people don't want to. But they are easily uniting behind English, Afrikaans, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and all of these rubbish languages that do not derive originally from our soil. I hate English and Afrikaans with passion, and I'm very well learned in both languages, by the way, because our parents took us to this modesty school thinking that we are getting better education, where English and Afrikaans were compulsory, compulsory. So I grew up learning English and Afrikaans my whole life. Only after school, I don't know what woke us up, where we said, but why is it that we don't learn in our own language? Why is it African languages are optional? You can get them at that school, you can't get them at that school. If you want your own African language, then you have to go to a township school. You don't get your Zulu, your Xhosa, your Tonga, your whatever language in the nice modesty schools. Why? Because the modesty schools are private owned, and the private sector makes sure that they push the agenda of English and Afrikaans. You see nothing wrong with it. You see nothing wrong with that. As an African, you see nothing wrong with that. You are watching this video and say, but King, we can't teach our children our African language. You can't even speak this African language overseas. Have you heard Lionel Messi speak English? Have you heard the Chinese president speak English? Have you heard the Russian president speak English? I can go on and make examples of people who don't care about English and who are proud to speak their own languages. Just imagine Jin Chong-hong or whatever his name is of Japan speaking English. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. Ever. West, us who were colonized, raped, killed, and derived from our land, we are the ones who are speaking this language, proud to speak English. And now, when it comes to the educational system, my goodness, guys, pray for us for the school that we are building. Pray for us, because I'm telling you, it's going to be a game changer here in South Africa, and it's going to give birth to schools that you guys have got no idea that are going to take over the whole of Africa. It's going to be a game changer what we will be teaching our African children in the PASETA, the Pan-African School of Economics, Technology and Agriculture. It's going to be crazy. If we can just get hold of our children in a school setup, we are done. The next generation is going to be in safe hands. Because our generation, we were failed. We were failed by this ANC government. It forces us to learn in English and Afrikaans. It's the ANC government that's doing that. Afrikaans people are only 7% of the population. And hello, only 1.8% of them are in schools. 1.8 out of that 7% are in schools. So the whole of South Africa is bending down to accommodate the 1.8%. Do you understand what I'm saying to you guys? The less than 2% of Afrikaner people are in schools, in formal schools, when we look at their percentage. It's embarrassing, ladies and gentlemen. Well, listen, if you want to see part 2 and part 3 of this beautiful interview by Kim Hela, just go in the comment section and type King do it. I'm definitely gonna do it for you guys if you guys want to see it anyway. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If it's the first time you're watching this video, I don't know where you are coming from, but you just landed in the Pan-Africanist home. Feel at home. Click the subscribe button. Make sure that you like the video. Make sure you leave your thoughts on the comment section, because I'd like to hear what you think about this interview. Have you watched the interview? If you haven't, head over to the EFF podcast and make sure that you watch the entire interview. I'm telling you, you're going to learn something. You're definitely going to learn. You're not going to regret. It's not going to be a waste of your time, my African brother and sister. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Until we meet next time, don't forget to pray. And after you pray, stand up, African child. Do your best so that God can do the rest. Peace in Pan-Africanism. I salute you.
Black Heart, the Hustle Continua. 100% good quality t-shirts, made to inspire your goals and dreams. T-shirts are now available at an affordable price. Place your order now. 068-473-6908. Instagram at Black7576. Facebook page Black Heart.